Welcome along to the Matchbook Golf Podcast. Delighted to welcome Jack Kelliher and Will Turl. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey. We're running it back after the Masters a few weeks ago. Jack, before we get going and into sort of the details on Matchbook, first of all, welcome along. And I guess you're excited for Major Week.
Can't wait. Yeah, it's going to be the strongest field of the year. All the golfers together. Let's try and get a winner between us.
Yeah, Will, like the Masters was a smaller field. It's like every player that deserves to be here is here, and as Jack touched on, it's arguably the best field we're going to get all year.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Masters we sort of preempted a potential whitewash. I think we're hoping for something a little bit more competitive this time with a few players in slightly better form. So yeah, but really buzzing for this week.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And we'll get into all that. So just so you know how it's going to run, we're going to give a little bit of our opening thoughts and then have three separate categories: a short price golfer, middle of the market golfer, big price selections, and as well as golfers at the end that made the short or long list. Before we get going, do check out the Matchbook Betting Exchange this week and every week for our golf betting markets, but also for a special money back offer. This is money back as a free bet on all the PGA Tour events throughout the year. Again, they're listed on sites on the promotions tab. But if your golfer is in the outright lead, i.e. the solo lead, and fails to win, you'll get your money back as a free bet. That is the end of each round. So that's round 1, 2, or 3, solo lead or outright lead. Basically, you will get your money back as a free bet, and that is up to £100. All you have to do, and this is very important, make sure you opt in on the promotions page before you get going, and full terms and conditions are available on the promotions tab on matchbook.com. And the last thing to say is do hit that like button and subscribe completely for free either on our YouTube channel or follow on your preferred podcast platform. Plenty of stuff going out this week on Matchbook Insights as well. Fury versus Usyk. Producer Ryan Cahill, a resident boxing expert, is tipping one heavily. I won't spoil that for you. Check out insights.matchbook.com. York Dante Festival previewed in full by the horse racing team. And as well, we've got the Premier League Final Day podcast, which will be out on Thursday. Jack, a lot of sport on, but US PGA is right up there this week. In terms of the course, first of all, if someone goes to Valhalla Golf Course, what do you think of? And then onto this week, we look at that top three in the betting, for example, all coming off a win, which is very rare, I guess, in the golf world.
Yeah, well, in terms of the golf course itself, it's an absolute beast, isn't it? I think that's what everyone remembers it for from 2014. The top drivers in the world sort of got to the top of the leaderboard, and the elite players did itself. So we've got a lengthened course since then in 2014, albeit technology's moved on for a lot of the golfers. So maybe that on the gate itself. But I expect, as we've seen with this championship, I think 10 of the last 13 winners have come in at odds of 45 to 1 or less. The cream generally rises to the top, and I expect no different this week.
Yeah, it's one of those courses, Will. And then look on those top three in the betting, Will, like they're all coming off a win. It's an exciting time for golf, and we were all waiting with bated breath for Scotty Scheffler. The baby has been born last week at some point. Anyway, we haven't got that much information, but Scotty Scheffler tees it up this week.
Yeah, it's been a strange season in that we were kind of looking at the first 5 to 10 events. I think pretty much all long shots, rookies, some crazy prices winning, and then the last sort of 5 to 10 tournaments we've had the opposite, and we've had all the favourites winning. We've had Scheffler winning, we've had McIlroy notching up a couple of wins, and yeah, it's a strange one where you're kind of deciding your betting strategy based on expected nappies from Scotty Scheffler. So it's going to be interesting to see how he turns up and whether he can shake off those late nights, early mornings. I'm sure he'll be fine. I'm sure he's got enough money to get a nanny on board, but certainly I'm factoring that in ever so slightly.
Yeah, no, like you said, is how as golf bettors, it's hard enough as it is without factoring in stuff like that. But yeah, we will get a look at the top of the market on the Matchbook Betting Exchange, and then look at some of those golfers on the top of the market. Current prices on the Matchbook Betting Exchange. Best price, we are Scotty Scheffler 5.9. 9.2. Rory McIlroy was a lot bigger before his win last week. Xander Schauffele 17.5. Can't close on Sundays, but if he's going to be there on Sundays, that is a big price. Brooks 19.5. That was been moving in and out all day. John Ram 21.0. Ludwig carrying an injury at 25.0. Bryson is 30. Morikawa 40.0, which we'll get into in shortly in the show, and bigger prices the rest. So yeah, look, Jack, we'll start with you on this one. Of those on the top of the market, if you had to pick one, where are you sort of looking for in terms of a bet and value at this point?
Headline selection for me will be Brooks Koepka, 19.0, 19.5. I can see available as you've just flashed it up there, which really excites me. He'll arrive here off the back of a win. His last 3 major championships, or his PGA championships, have come off the back of strong performances. So, that fits the bill for him. A lot of confidence in his game. I think the Brooks strut will be well and truly in full flow down those fairways. And I think that he'll also have, history in his eyes. I think he's got a, big ego as Brooks. And I think he'll have eyes on Tiger's 4 PGA championships, and Jack's 5. So I'm sure he'll be wanting to get to 4 this week. His game's in good order. He's proven on the Zoysia grass fairways. Hope I've got that one right. And he played there last week, actually, over on the Live Tour. I think there was a blend of that grass in the fairways over there. 15 top 10 finishes in his last 25 majors. And I think what swung it for me, maybe someone on the pod will come on to talk about one of the other players at the top of the market arriving in form. But he represents a 5% chance, according to the market, roughly, of winning this event. Rory at 11% chance. That's what swayed it for me at the top of the market. Rory was close for me. His game will stack up super well for this track, but at double the price, Brooks, 19.5. He is the main selection for myself.
Okay, that's Brooks Koepka, 19.5 on the Matchbook Betting Exchange. Will, for you, and I guess it's a price, and then Jack's sort of compared the prices at the moment. Rory's around the 9.2 mark. I guess it's a case like he is shorter than Brooks, but given how well he's playing, the course fits so well. Like, if it's still a backable price, it's still a backable price.
Yeah, he's hammered me a bit there, but Rory's been he's been on my list for this for a few weeks now. I guess I was kind of gutted actually that Xander did what Xander does at the moment and gave him the win on the Sunday, because obviously that's led to a bit of a contraction on the price on McIlroy. But I think, as you said, his game's in such excellent order. The driving, as we know, is always good, but it was in particular good Vettel this week. He was also, I think he was the best putter last week as well. And when Rory's driving as he can do, or as he tends to do, as soon as he starts putting and chipping well, you're in trouble. He just looks like he has a bit of a strut about him. I think he's the kind of player we know. He's a bit emotional. He gets ties to golf courses. He gets ties to events. That was certainly the case at Quail Hollow, where he racked up his 4th win there. Valhalla, again, as we know, the last time it was there 10 years ago now, he was the winner. I just feel like there's a bit of the sort of emotional side that gets Rory going, a bit like the Ryder Cup, right? We see the best of him when he gets a bit of a kick up the backside. And I think the feels from 10 years ago, plus him in exceptional form. And then on top of that, his main competitor, Scotty Scheffler, I'm sure we'll comment on him more, but the ever so slight marginal difference to taking your eye off the ball ever so slightly, having a child so recently, that I'm putting too much into it, but it's such an exceptionally high standard in the top of the market at the moment. I think the very small margins like that might end up, pushing Rory ahead of him. And I was surprised to see they weren't slightly closer, given the circumstances with Rory winning and what's happened to Scotty.
Yeah, and I'm the opposite of you. As much as everyone knows, I'm a massive Rory McIlroy fan. I can't you're getting sledged from both ends, Will, in terms of Jack's thinking Brooks is too big in comparison to Rory, and me thinking Scheffler's not short enough compared to Rory. But I just think I promised myself after the Masters to, at very least, really consider Scotty Scheffler at the current prices, which was around, probably a little bit shorter. It was probably 5.5, I guess, on the Matchbook Betting Exchange. But since then, obviously, he's had the baby. He's had to pull out the Wells Fargo Championship, but he did win the following week, the RBC Heritage, and like that was just an absolute sensational win, considering how far back he was. He traded at 20 plus throughout round 2 before, like, coming back from 11-12 shots. I know he had a lot of holes to play that round 2, but the point is he's had 4 wins from his last 5, and I just think any sort of golf course right now, he is just a little bit above Rory McIlroy. My big thing to say was, had Scheffler been playing last week, I think he probably would have won, and if that was the case, he'd be a lot shorter here, probably closer to 4.0. So I do think we're getting a slightly bigger price, as much as you would in a golf tournament. I know it's a lot bigger fields than horse racing, but big point sticking out to me in the US Masters. Scotty Scheffler 5.0 favorite. If that was a horse racing handicap with 70 odd runners and Willie Mullins favorite or something like that, you'd still be considering that price. Anything
was
to say
that
on
the same Rory there though, Dan? That's the only thing.
No, that's
Rory
a good point.
You're probably getting the same Scotty. I'm not arguing that. You're getting a different Rory though. You're getting a Rory that's just won back to back, and he looks like he's really means business. Also, the grass that I'm not going to try and pronounce, Zoysia. He's also got a really good track record on that, so that's part of my my Rory case. Eastlake is famously one that uses that, and I think has he won there 4 times at Eastlake. So yeah, that's another big factor for me.
Yeah. Any final words, Jag, either on Rory or Brooks, or sorry, Rory and Scotty?
No, I think I think they've both got outstanding chances, haven't they? Is the truth, and you've got to nail your colours to the mast at the top of the board, and we've all gone with different ones, but and for fair reasons, I think. So yeah, I'll still be backing Brooks to have them all.
My last 2 golf betting rules: never back Rory again after last year's major season, and then after the Masters, never not have Scotty on my list. So we'll block that in. Well, I'm gone. Scotty Scheffler currently 5.9, Will at the top of the market, Rory 9.2, and Brooks in and around the 20.0 mark for Jack. Let's go to the middle of the market selections. And Will, exciting golfer here for you. Colin Morikawa, you think he's overpriced?
Yeah, a bit of a favourite of mine. Had a couple of wins on him when he was, coming through to reach the elite of the game, and he's a player I always look to. I'm not going to throw a load of stats on here with Morikawa. I feel it's a bit of a feel thing. Like, you can see when he's on it, and he just looks like he's on it at the moment. His iron play is, probably with Scotty, he's probably the one you say is the 2 best when they're firing. He just throws darts in there. His putting's pretty good. He's also won on this grass at the Zozo in Japan a couple of years ago. So he's got a bit of experience on that. I just think his performances over the last couple of tournaments have been, pretty good. After the Masters, where, let's be honest, he wins that tournament a couple of times out of 10 on the Sunday. He was right in the mix. He made one big mistake and then kind of was trying to recover as best he could and got out of the mix, but he finished tied 3rd, I think, at the Masters. And since then, like I said, he's had a couple of tournaments where he's been in the mix again. And with him, I think he's an auto player as soon as he reaches 30 on the exchanges for a big tournament. He's at 40.0. So I was expecting him to come in at 25-30 this week, given the Masters performance, given the last couple of weeks trending pretty well. So literally, as soon as he reaches 30, I'm putting him in my staking plan, and if he's at 40, I'm more than happy with that. And yeah, I'm quite excited for Colin's case this week.
Okay, it's hard really to argue. That 40.0 price does look quite big. Golfer, I'm going from the middle of the market. Max Homa, obviously poor major record until eventually I think he was 10th at last year's Open. Really good performance in the Masters final group on the Saturday, penultimate group on the Sunday, and I just feel he's gotten his act together for the major season. Solid enough performance after that, a top 10 in Quail Hollow last week, and I do think Max Homa 42.0. I think we need to start looking at him as a major golfer, and at that price, again, similar to Morikawa, I do feel it's a tad too big, obviously given, notwithstanding the really big hitters on the top of the market. Jack, this is an interesting selection from you, and I guess sometimes when a golfer is out of form to a point, although you might point in a different direction there, what price does he become a backable price?
Yeah, I think Will alluded to it with Morikawa going into the Masters. People write him off because he hasn't got the natural length. His price got too big, and ended up finishing pretty high up on that leaderboard, like say tied 3rd. Similar with Hovland, who's going to be my second selection at the middle of the market. I played around with this area, so I liked Homer, I liked Cantlay, but ended up landing on Hovland just because of the price. Really, 55-1, maybe drifting to 60 because he won't be popular as the days go on. But he's gone through swing changes in the last 4 or 5 months, which seems mad since the back end of last year, where he was one of the top golfers in the world. He would have been priced up around 18-1 with the maybe 20-1, I would say, if you'd have done this in January. He's now available at 55-1. And last week, he showed signs that his game was trending in the right direction. I'm not sure we'll see this price ever again on Victor Hovland if he performs okay this week. So he was 8th in ball striking last week at the Wells Fargo, but in the 4th round, he really found something. 1st in tee to green performance, 1st in strokes gained approach play, 2nd in proximity. He's got form at the PGA Tour the championship itself, 2nd last year. I think 11 of the last 13 winners, might be 10, stand corrected on that, but have arrived here with a top 5 finish previously. So he ticks that box, and I just cannot avoid the odds. Combining that, his short game is what's always sort of held against him, not being good enough. He doesn't have to chip off tight fairways this week. It's not like the Masters. All the grass is grown up around the greens. If he can start strongly, I reckon he's a confidence player. And I think that he will have no fears if his game holds up day one. So 55 to 1, I could not resist pulling the trigger.
I think case of the day so far goes to Jack Kelliher there on Victor Hovland. That was very impressive. Will, over to you on the big price selections. This is a golfer that had made my shortlist, to be fair.
Yeah, I think just looking at our WhatsApp group, I think he made all of our shortlists. So yeah, I put him in as my main one at the top, the bottom end of the market. So Sepp Straka, 130 on the exchange at the moment, and I would also put in a bet on the top 20 market at around 10.0 at the moment. That might improve slightly as we get closer to the off. Sorry, for the top 10, that is 10.0 for the top 10 market. Yeah, Sepp Straka, look, he's been in the mix in a number of tournaments recently. We're kind of looking at a guy now that we think is ready to make the step up to kind of challenge in the majors. He showed that last year where he finished tied 2nd in the Open Championship last year. He also did pretty well. I think he finished just within the top 10 at the PGA Championship last year. So he's starting to rack up some major form alongside a really consistent PGA stream of results. So, previously, I think we looked at Sepp Straka as a streaky player that might throw a couple of low rounds in there and you might get lucky and spike a tournament. I think the last 2 years, he's kind of reached, I think he's in his early 30s now, he's started to perform more consistently. He's hitting top 10s, top 20s most weeks now on the PGA. And if he throws in one of these low rounds that he used to be famed for, be that round 1, be that round 2, he could be at the top of the market. And I think he's now, similar to how we talk about some of the younger players, or let's say Max Homer, right? Once you start getting that experience of being in the mix for a couple of major tournaments, the wounds heal and they grow back. Your knee goes back stronger, so they're going to be a lot easier for him to withstand the pressure that comes from behind if he does reach the top of the market. So yeah, Sepp Straka, I really like him. Again, I put the top 10 in there because of the consistency he's hitting. I think he's very likely to get in the mix. Whether he can win it or not at 130 may not be the case, but I think you're very likely to get a top 10 there at an odds of around 10.0. So Sepp Straka for me.
Yeah, and definitely one you could perhaps back to lay on the exchange, depending how he's going throughout the week. Jack, a couple of big price selections here for you.
Yeah, well, love that selection, Will, by the way. It's one that I looked hard at, so I wish you all the best with that. Reluctantly, I'm not on, but there we go. Yeah, for my two, Siwoo Kim was my first big price selection, not Sungjae Im. He was available at 170 to 1 yesterday. He's been hammered in the as far as that goes in the exchanges. There into 100 to 1. The major concern will be his putting, but he was really well talked about ahead of the Masters. His game stacked up very well since then. A very underrated short game, an elite level ball striker. I just feel that his price at 170 was far too big. I think the market is now a fair reflection of his chances, but I wouldn't put anybody off having a speculative play on Siwoo Kim at 100 to 1. More confident about the other big price selection that I'm going to put on the table, which is Tyrrell Hatton. Big fan of Tyrrell. The question mark with him is always his temperament, I think. But what I like about him is his all-round game. I think suits this championship best. If there was a major that I believe that he can get over the line in, it would be this one. He's longer than people think and straight off the tee box. Super well-rounded in his game. So his iron play is super strong, driving the ball straight. And this championship requires you to putt well. He is one of the elite level putters in this field. I think if I was to choose 5 golfers to make a putt for my life, Cam Smith would be number 1. But this guy would be in the top 5. I genuinely think he's a world-class putter, and I want him on my side. Major performance his best ever major performance at the Masters, 9th there, with a course that he struggled on in the past. Maybe that shows some maturity in his game. Where he'd thrown the towel in at the Masters previously. This time around, he finishes in the top 10. Yeah, at 75-1, Tyrrell Hatton, well-rounded game, super short game, elite level putter. He will do for me.
Okay, yeah, Siwoo Kim 100.0, Hatton 75.0, Strack at 130.0 for Will. And I'm going to chance Jason Day. I feel his game's been trending in the right directions for the last few months. Tied 4th last week, and he went out and tweeted that he's very happy with his game and looking forward to this week. Final round, disappointing final round in 2014 meant he was tied 15. Don't think you can read in 2014. Don't think you'd read too much into that, but it does show he has the course form there. And yeah, I was surprised, similar to when Will found Markow 40.0. I was surprised seeing Jason Day that big given his recent form. So I do think 90.0 is worth a squeak.
You said his game's trending in the right way, Dan, but what about his clothes? How are they trending for you?
Honestly, there was 1 or 2 of his outfits I was actually quite a fan of that got a lot of hate on Twitter, so I stayed quiet. But I think overall, yeah, he needs to have a serious hard look at himself.
The baggy trousers, he looks a big gust of wind. He looks like he could take off.
I thought some of the Masters one was appalling, and I think there was one shirt he had to not wear, or was told that he couldn't wear when he was on the driving range. So it'll get a lot of clicks, it'll get a lot of news this week. So if you want a golfer that you can actually watch, maybe Jason Day is probably the one at a big price, 90.0. This is always an interesting section before we go. Golfers that made the short list, long list, ones to keep an eye on throughout the week. Jack, we'll start with you on your long list, short list, just for golfers to keep an eye on for people.
Yeah, I thought, they'll be fairly popular with the public, but people like Patrick Cantlay, Benny Ann, elite level drivers of the ball. Benny Ann in really good, consistent form right now. The most consistent he's been probably in his PGA Tour career since losing his card a few years back. Cantlay price just too big, perhaps. I couldn't quite get there, but his stats are nowhere near as bad as people think, in my opinion, or when looking at them. Loads, 7 or 8 wins on the bent grass putting surfaces. Elite level driver, and his price now is what it should be. 40-1 plus. I think he's around 60-1 on the Matchbook Exchange, and then a huge price. Again, another elite level driver. I think that's been a theme for everybody this week. But Keith Mitchell, about 230-240-1 on the Matchbook Exchange. A player that can play the tough and demanding courses well, and at those odds might just be worth a speculative a punt in the top 20 markets. I can see him challenging for those.
Okay, yeah, and keep an eye on loads of those markets available now on Matchbook. Will?
Only quickly, most of them are covered actually. So Homer was on my short list. Yeah, reasons given already. Cantlay was also very close, and it was pretty much the same logic to Morikawa. I think once Cantlay hits a price, you got to back him. He's had a bit of a Sunday struggle recently, but I think he can shake that off. He's won big tournaments before, so he hasn't won a major yet, but we know he can win big tournaments. So I think he will shake that off, and you won't be getting 55-60-1 anywhere near that if he does rack a big tournament up soon. That's pretty much it for me. I think most of the other options were covered by the guys. We seem to have a similar shortlist.
Yeah, which is either very good or very bad. As most things, it's either like great minds think alike or just too much group thinking. Who knows? But one shout out was Matt Fitzpatrick before we started. I know he hasn't been in the best perform post the Masters, albeit he was doing okay for a couple of rounds in the Heritage. And again, looking at his price, I went, Jesus, 100/110.0 on Matchbook. It seems a tad too big. And of course, that might fit given how he could drive the ball. I can drive the ball on a good driving week. But yeah, my thanks to Jack, Will. We will have all these bet recaps on insights.matchbook.com. So do check that out. Search Matchbook Insights. Enjoy the weekend sport. In particular, enjoy the PGA. And do keep an eye on our YouTube channel for all our content for other sports, including horse racing, football, and boxing. Enjoy the weekend. Bye-bye.